Welcome to the MLB Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Traveling along the East Coast still, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer. He's also on the East Coast, and we are kicking off the work week here with a Monday slate of baseball for you guys, coming off an NFL weekend and also another week of baseball last week where we finished off pretty well on Friday night. 3-2 between us there, Nate, and then we also got up a full unit on that one with those bets, so we'll be looking to continue that streak for you guys here this week. Go ahead and like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along to these videos each and every weekday this regular season of the MLB. Also want you to head to thelines.com. Check out the great written content we're putting up there right now with sports in full-fledged, and also have the odds finder tool on there that we want you to use. Make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all of these books giving us bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and kick things off here the night of Sunday night, getting ahead of these lines for everyone on Monday.
Yeah, let's go back to a fan favorite of this show, which is picking on Kyle Freeland. And even better, the fact that he's pitching at Coors against a really, really hot Cubs offense. So I will take Cubs on the run line here, which is still minus 112, not the best odds, but I mean, it's Coors. So when it rains at Coors, usually I think they'll have no problem getting that margin, and I'll take their team total over 5.5 runs where you can find it. Freeland is a guy that the Rockies have been willing to just hang out to dry because he's just getting hammered. He hit really hard. He has a 55% hard contact rate his last 4 at Coors, and a 150 adjusted ERA. So even if you adjust for the ballpark and league average, he is still a well below average pitcher. In fact, all 4 of his pitches that he throws rate at least -4 runs below average this year. Since the All-Star break, he's allowing guys to hit 326 with a 2.3 home run per 9 ratio, and he actually faced these Cubs last April at Coors. I would say these Cubs, but really it was a far inferior lineup that didn't have Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, guys who have great BVP data against him, by the way. But against the Cubs, yeah, he gave up 5 earned, 9 hits, only struck out 1. And for the Cubs, that's a big deal because they hit lefties really well. They have the second best average in lefty-lefty matchups. They just have a high strikeout rate. But I mean, in a situation where you have a guy with a 7.8% swinging strike rate on the year, just very low whiff rate, they're not going to be striking out. They're going to be able to put it in play. And they've just been rolling on the road, averaging 6 runs per game in general, and then you add the run factor of Coors, of course. So I think they will be piling up runs, and Jordan Wicks, who's going for them, has been really solid through his first 3 starts. First-round pick, who's got an expected ERA around 3, and an adjusted ERA, again, to use that state, of 50, so pretty much twice as good as Freeland, according to that statistic, and he's keeping the ball down, like low launch angle, low barrel rate, and a small sample size, but it doesn't get much easier, I guess, against Colorado, which is just the absolute worst offense in the league, period, but especially worst against lefties on the year in terms of WOBA and K rate. And then you got that Rockies bullpen, which is also the worst in the league by far, as they just don't really try to win games. So 8.2 ERA for that bullpen over the last month. A lot to like about the Cubs here. That's why I'm faithful in them winning by 2 runs.
Preach, baby, preach. I totally buy everything you're saying. When I bet on the Cubs to make the playoffs a number of times, actually like 3 different times over the course of the last month and a half, I also picked up Jordan Wicks on fantasy because of the same reason that I bet on the Cubs, which was they've got it easy the rest of the way. They had one of the easiest remaining strengths of schedule. Jordan Wicks keeps getting really favorable matchups for a young pitcher that's making his way into the majors, hoping to be able to help this team out when they make the playoffs, as they're slated to do right now and slotted to do with ease at this point. I think they're in really, really good position, and he'll continue to be the beneficiary of some of these great matchups, like the bad lineups that he's been able to face so far. And yeah, Kyle Freeland, man, bad pitcher on a bad team in a bad ballpark for pitchers. just recipe for disaster, man. They're just hanging out another young arm or younger arm to dry anyway. As Kyle Freeland's career is probably not going to go very far at this point. But let's move on real quick to a game that I know we're both talking about here, and I couldn't get away from it even after I knew that you were going to be talking about it, and we might as well double up on it because I think it's a really fun game to talk about too, which is the Rays as they're taking on Sonny Gray and the Twins, and we've got Tyler Glass now on the mound, and I'm happy that I can call myself out before you get to talk trash to me about there's being wrong the way that I said Tyler Glasnow would go under 8 Ks last time out, and then there's being wrong when he get 14 Ks in that one and just had a 21.9 K per nine ratio in the 6 innings that he pitched. So shout out Tyler Glasnow, dude. It's just nasty. I'm not gonna to ride his Ks right now at 7.5, even though the Twins do strike out as much as they do. I'm not really going to be mad at you if you take 8 Ks. I don't really have the cojones to go 8 Ks on a pitcher just because a lot of things need to work out, and maybe for someone like him you still feel good about it. I think the thing that scares me about the strikeouts too is that despite the fact that the Twins are striking out as much as they do, I do think there's the possibility that he only goes 6, and now you're at a much higher K per 9 anyway. It sounds silly saying this when a guy just threw 14 strikeouts, but like that's not going to happen all the time, so like let's stick to it. But the 17.5 outs is something that I think you can bank on. He's in a lot of control of that, and that's why he's done that 9 times in a row in terms of getting the 18 outs that I'm going for with him. I should say it's minus 125 on DraftKings as well, putting a full unit on it, as you probably see on the screen at this point, over 17.5 outs. But the in the last 9 that I'm talking about here for Glass now, we're talking about 70 Ks and only 12 walks. That's a 6 to 1 K to walk ratio. He's averaging about 10, almost 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's keeping the ERA and the xFIP down at 2.33 ERA, 2.65 xFIP. The WHIP is below below 0.9 at this point. And the thing too is like for the Twins, they need to walk. Like they walk the most of any team against righties pretty much on the season, and also over the course of the last couple months, it's been consistent for them that they strike out a lot, they walk a lot. They don't really hit for average, and that's why, I think if they can't get guys on base and Glasnow is not walking guys and he's only striking guys out, he should have a decent time getting through 6 innings against this lineup, even though, like I said, they strike out as much as they do. They do hit the ball well if they make contact. He has been known to give up decent contact, but he's missing barrels. He's got a really nice ground ball percentage up around 56% over those last 9 games as well. I don't know why you would bet against him at this point. Like I said, I think that the Twins are going to rely on walks they're not going to get, and at least for Glasnow, where he's up to 36% of the time that he's throwing that slider, which is a nasty pitch after that fastball comes in at averaging nearly 97 miles an hour on the average fastball there for him. And that slider, if you're throwing it more than a third of the percent of the time, he's striking guys out the number one most times. He's got the highest expected outcome in terms of for the pitcher, the lowest earned run average on that slider of any pitcher. It's hard to hit, and that's the one pitch of the 3 that he throws that the Twins just actually don't have that much success against. The Twins are very good against righties throwing a fastball, very good against a cutter, not very good against a slider. And I think that's where he's going to have success against this team in this matchup, and that's why I feel good about him getting the 18 outs.
Yeah, it's exactly what I keyed in on, why I was looking at Rays money line, and honestly, I would take over 7.5 Ks, but I think you could probably, if you want to combine those two looks, you can probably do a 7+ Ks for Glasnow in a win and get plus odds there, and not have to, you can juke it down 1 K less. But yeah, in addition to all the strikeout data, he's also got a 51% ground ball rate right now. Just elite expected FIP basically, which is fielding independent pitching, of course, which is keeping the ball in the yard, allowing your fielders to do what they do, which is just what you want to do against this Twins roster, which is just trying to smash essentially, but they will whiff, especially on that slider. So let's look at Sonny Gray a little bit, and there's not a lot to poke holes into his game. He's just a really savvy veteran who also avoids giving up the big fly, career high or career low launch angle, home run per 9, etc. But I think this Rays offense is one that can put it on a line, especially in these righty-righty matchups. They've been so good over the last month. He does have a 5.1 ERA his last 5 against the Rays when he was with the Yankees. So they are familiar with him, and somewhat of a cupcake schedule, at least lately when he's been pitching at home. Pittsburgh, Texas, when they were struggling, and Cleveland, the worst offense for a contender. And he actually struggled against Pittsburgh and gave up 4 earned. So I think there's a lot more opportunity to expect variance from Gray.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, honestly, I kind of like Sonny Gray to go over 17.5 outs as well, if I'm being honest. I didn't really want to try to same game parlay that or anything like that. And I did want to at least get another game on here that I wanted to talk about, which I also feel really good about. But Sonny Gray, I just wanted to mention, like, would not hate it if you wanted to take him to go over 17.5. You can get -105 on that one, actually, on DraftKings. A little bit better juice there than for Glass now to go the 18. So it might be worth a look as well. But the game that I'm putting a full unit and a half on is Milwaukee to handle the business against the Marlins here with Brandon Woodruff on the mound. Look, I mean, he's taking on my guy, Jesus Luzardo, and Luzardo's been good in his last 3. He's come back from a really rough few starts there before he came back in his last 3 against the Dodgers and the Rays and the San Diego Padres. All 3 of those teams pitched really well against 6 innings against all 3 of them. Before that was struggling mightily, went 3.2, 3.1, 5 innings, 4 innings, had a really rough sort of beginning of August and end of June there that really took a toll on him, but he's kind of come back to settle down. The thing is I still like Milwaukee with Woodruff on the mound more so in this situation. I like their bats a bit more than Miami's, which are really fumbling at this point, and definitely against righties like Woodruff. They don't strike out against him, but they also just don't hit against him at all at this point. If you actually look at the matchups that Woodruff has had at this point against the Miami lineup versus him, that just not good for them, basically. 35% K rate for Woodruff and a 175 batting average against him, just a 375 slugging against him. He just crushes Bell, by the way. Since coming back from the IL for Woodruff, we're talking about just being an absolute killer. 4-1 in his 8 appearances. We're talking about a 2.3 ERA, 3.62 xFIP. The WHIP is below 0.8. The Ks are above 10.5 per 9. We're looking at 55 strikeouts to just 12 walks in the time that he's been back. So that's basically a 5-to-1 K to walk ratio there. Really only getting 6% barrels against him as well for these batters. So he's just the success he's had against this team, the lack of success and fear that any of these Miami batters are really putting into opposing pitchers at this point. You feel pretty good about that. And then, you look at the Milwaukee bats versus lefties and taking on Luzardo like they are. They don't strike out against him, which he does rely on a decent amount. The 8th highest WRC plus. They're basically about the 5th best team batting against lefties since August started at this point. They made a few trades right before that definitely have contributed as well. And then you just talk about the major bullpen advantage for Milwaukee, which could be a pretty big talking point when we get into the postseason and you've got to take this team on and they've got 3 or 4 arms that they feel good throwing at you over the course of a 3 or 4 games in 4 nights or 5 nights, and you're not really worried about it at that point. And they do have they need Corbin Burns to come through honestly big time if they're going to do much in the playoffs. But with Woodruff looking the way he is in this bullpen the way it is, you expect him to come out and at least give them a fighting chance each and every time. I think these bats are going to be able to get to Luzardo way easier than the Miami lineup will be able to touch Woodruff up, and you can feel good about the money line for these Brew Crew here.
Yeah, I think this is more about backing Woodruff for me, and I would go under 2.5 earned runs for him because I just think he'll have no problem with this Marlins lineup. Luzardo is way more mercurial. Like, we don't know necessarily what we're going to get for him. He has been able to turn it around lately, and that Brewers lineup is also kind of boom bust against lefties, but that's why it's great you brought up the bullpen advantage, because if this is, a 3-2 game or whatever going into the 7th, you definitely like the Brewers to pull it out. I mean, that's what they've been trending towards. For months now, while the Marlins have been floundering, flopping fish, if you will. So I will take Milwaukee for sure.
Absolutely. We're with you on that one. So that is all the time, though, that we have in this one. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along, bringing you these videos each and every day this week. So until we talk to you next, happy betting.